Since Clara arrived, everything in our home has changed. Richard, who used to greet me with a bright smile every time I walked into a room, now barely acknowledges me, often responding with nothing more than a grunt as he stares at his phone. His job, however, remains largely the same, just as demanding, if not less so, than before. Still, something in him shifted the day we brought Lily home. "Another painting today, Clara?" "That must be her third this week," Thomas said, his tone sharp and laced with disapproval. There was a time when he would appreciate my art, even proudly displaying my favorite piece in his office. But those days have passed. "Yeah, it's not like I'm spending your money," I would retort, trying to hide the tremor in my voice while focusing on mixing blues and yellows on my palette. Each dismissive comment from him felt like a personal blow, no matter how hard I tried to stay composed. "Could have fooled me. This place looks like a disaster zone," he'd snap, his eyes scanning the room as if every stray toy and blanket was proof of my failure. "Look, I'm with Lily all day, and she's a lot to handle," I'd respond, my voice shaky. "Maybe if you pitched in once in a while?" "Pitch in? You're home all the time. You handle it. That was the deal, remember? I make the money, you take care of everything else. Not my fault if you can't keep up," he'd shoot back, cutting off any hope of discussion, making it clear there was no room for me to defend myself. The evenings always ended the same way, with him turning away from me, dismissing me with a scoff. In the mornings, as he left for work, Lily would tug at the hem of my shirt, her little eyes full of confusion. "Daddy mad?" she would ask, her lip quivering. "No, baby. Daddy just has a lot on his mind," I would answer, pulling her into my arms and trying to force a smile. "Come on, let's pick out some colors together." And though Richard's harsh tone would linger in my thoughts, it was soon replaced by Lily's laughter and the quiet rhythm of our paintbrushes dancing across the canvas. My confidence in my paintings wasn't born from arrogance, but from a reminder of a time when I felt vibrant and assured. That evening, as I always did, I tried to welcome Richard home with a warm dinner, the house tidy, and Lily squeaky clean from her bath, dressed in her best pajamas. "Hey," I greeted him, the aroma of roast chicken wafting through the air. He responded with a grunt, shrugged off his coat, and threw it over the couch. His gaze flickered to the easel in the corner of our living room. "Still haven't gotten rid of that junk, huh?" "It's not junk, Richard. I'm working on something," I replied, weariness seeping through my words. "Looks like a waste of time and money." "You could be doing something productive, you know," he remarked, dismissing my words as he walked past me to the fridge. "I am doing something productive. I'm raising our daughter and keeping her home, and I'm trying to hang on to something that matters to me," I stated firmly, clinging to the threads of something that once brought me joy and a sense of self-worth. My artwork is profoundly important to me. However, Richard hardly seemed to notice as he casually cracked open a beer and took a long sip. "Call it whatever you want, Clara, but to me, it seems like you're just passing the time and making a mess that I'll have to pay someone to clean up." The hurt wasn't from the harshness of his words. I was becoming accustomed to those. It was his blatant disregard for my dreams, my passion for painting, that cut deeply. There was no room for my aspirations in Richard's world anymore. "Dinner's ready," I announced, a statement that felt more like a rehearsed line I delivered weekly as I served the dinner with trembling hands. Richard's parents, who were seated at the head of the table like judges, hardly acknowledged my effort to prepare a warm, hearty meal. Their attention was fixed on the easel beside the window. "What's this?" Arthur, Richard's father, a solid man with an authoritative tone, pointed at my unfinished painting. "Oh, that's just something Clara's been messing around with," Richard answered with a dismissive chuckle, waving his hand nonchalantly as he sat down. "Real high-class stuff, huh?" Laughter rang out from the table, but it was the kind that felt empty, mocking, no warmth in their eyes. "Oh my, we have an artist in the family now?" Agnes, Richard's mother, interjected, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. "Why don't you show us your latest masterpiece, dear?" Arthur added, his smile more of a challenge than genuine curiosity. I stood frozen, heat creeping up my neck. "It's not finished yet," I muttered quietly. But Richard had already grabbed the canvas, handling it carelessly, as if it were nothing more than a dish towel. "Take a look at this, everyone," he laughed, flipping the canvas around dramatically, as if revealing a grand prize. "It's supposed to be a landscape, can you believe it?" Arthur's booming laughter filled the room again. "Looks more like a blind dog's nightmare," Agnes said dismissively, her nostrils flaring in disgust. "Why bother with this hobby? Get a real job or do something useful." "As if anyone would hire her," Richard sneered, slamming the painting back down with a force that made my heart drop. "The job market's rough out there, and well, just look at her." I swallowed hard, my hands balling into fists at my sides. "I do plenty. I take care of Lily and the house," I began, but my words faltered under their cold stares. Agnes poked at her food with her fork, as though she were afraid it might be poisoned. "Taking care of your family is the bare minimum," she sniffed. "But honestly, Richard, if you'd married someone with a little ambition—" With every word, they tore me down further, and I stood there, rooted in place. The room felt suffocating, their words pressing in on me like a vice, squeezing the air out of my lungs. I felt smaller and smaller, insignificant in their performance. Finally, something inside me broke. When the meal was over, I forced calmness into my voice and excused myself. Without a word, I marched upstairs, not once looking back, and locked myself in the bedroom. "Clara?" Richard's voice came from the other side of the door about half an hour later. "You coming down? We need to clear the table." I didn't answer. I couldn't. If I spoke, I feared I'd lose control of everything. A sob or a cry might escape, and I wasn't going to give them that satisfaction. Instead, I scrolled through my banking app, my brow furrowing deeper with every passing moment. Our finances were in crisis again this month, and the grocery and essentials list kept growing. Lily, constantly growing, needed new shoes. From the living room, Richard's voice broke the silence. "Clara, why is there a $5,710 charge for Martin's art supplies?" I was busy on the app, transferring the last of my personal savings to cover the costs. "Just picked up a few necessities," I replied, trying to sound nonchalant. "Come on, Clara, that's money that could have been used for something important," he retorted, his tone flat, tinged with disinterest and perhaps disappointment or frustration. "Art is important to me, Richard. Just like your golf is to you." I didn't mention how his golf clubs had cost more than a year's worth of my art supplies. "Yeah, but golf is networking, it's part of my job. What does your painting get us? A cluttered house and wasted cash?" he grumbled. "It helps me cope with the day," I murmured, feeling the familiar pull of conflict within me. "Through the day. We need to be smart about our finances, not just spend on whatever helps us get by." "Budget, Clara, budget," he lectured, as if the word was a leash tightening around my neck. "I buy my art supplies with my own money, Richard. The money I had before—" I trailed off, not wanting to escalate the argument. My past, a time of job independence and dreams of my own gallery, felt like a distant chapter. "Your money's our money, isn't it?" he snapped, the implication clear that my financial independence was a thing of the past. "And that money is running out fast. What then?" Later, at the store, I opted for cheaper brands, counting every penny, every compromise at the checkout. I chose the smallest paint tubes, small enough to go unnoticed in the cart. Back home, I unpacked groceries with methodical precision, each item a symbol of our precarious financial balance. Richard, noticing the budget brands, remarked, "Putting back some luxuries, are we?" "Yes, tightening the belt," I responded, avoiding his gaze and concealing the receipts, a record of my necessary transgressions. He hummed, rummaging through the bags as if searching for a mistake. "Where are the Greek yogurts you like? And isn't this the cheaper coffee?" I shrugged, busying myself with the pantry. Prices went up, had to make some cuts. But I don't see any cuts in your art budget, he pointed out, noticing the new brushes hidden under a loaf of bread. I faced him, our eyes meeting for the first time since the conversation began. This keeps me sane, Richard. My art keeps me going, a plaything in her curious hands. Her birthday is coming up fast, and Daddy wants us to make something special. Can I help? Lily's eyes sparkled with the prospect of a shared project. Even as I weighed the feasibility against the looming deadline, I nodded, swallowing back my apprehension. Of course, honey. We'll make it a team effort. With my resolve steadied, I reclaimed my voice, now steady and resolute as I gripped the edge of the countertop, halting the trembling in my hand. In these trying times, maintaining one's composure feels almost like a privilege. His words echoed in my mind as he gestured toward the brushes, a stark reminder of our strained conversations. That evening, as I began to paint, it wasn't inspiration that guided me, but sheer determination. Each brushstroke became a rebellion against the stifling expectations set by Richard. Yet, as I worked, memories of a time when these brushes brought joy instead of strife flooded back to me. Meanwhile, Richard was entangled in business meetings across the country, barely pausing as he laid out my latest assignment over the phone. Clara, you need to come up with a birthday gift for my boss's wife, Isabel. Her celebration is in a week. Got it. Do we have a budget for this? I asked, my gaze fixed on our stretched finances displayed on my laptop. Just handle it, make it thoughtful, he replied distractedly, his attention already elsewhere. Exasperated yet undeterred, I felt the familiar rush of frustration heat my cheeks. You expect a thoughtful gift, yet I'm to conjure the budget from thin air? I muttered to myself after he hung up. Taking a deep breath, I closed my eyes, calming the storm within. Without the funds, but needing to impress, I dove deep into Isabel's social media. Her love for art was evident, her feed a parade of gallery visits and luxurious canvases interspersed with snapshots alongside celebrated artists. She valued the arts profoundly. An idea struck me like a flash of lightning. I could create a painting. The supplies were here. The motivation was undeniable. It would be a gift uniquely ours, impossible to replicate from any upscale boutique. Embracing the concept, I envisioned the painting coming to life, the strokes forming under my fingers. This personal touch was not just fitting, it was necessary. With resolve, I prepared to use every available moment to create something worthy of Isabel's sophisticated tastes. Setting up my old easel in the living room, transforming it into my studio, I braced myself for the challenge ahead. As I began, my daughter, Lily, stumbled upon the scene of artistic disarray. "What's all this?" she inquired, eyes wide with wonder. "It's a birthday present project for someone your daddy works with," I explained, tidying up as she poked at a hardened paintbrush. "Can I help, Mommy?" she asked, picking up the crusty brush, intrigued. "Yes, let's make it special together," I agreed, taking the brush from her, hopeful that our combined creativity could meet the high stakes of this corporate gifting challenge. Lily, gripping a makeshift wand, or toy sword, furrowed her brow in confusion. "But why can't Daddy buy something?" she asked. "Lily, go watch your cartoons. I need some time to think," I replied, not in the mood to explain our financial struggles or the complexities of my marriage to a 7-year-old. Muttering under her breath, a bit too much like me for comfort, she scampered off to the living room, leaving me alone with my thoughts. As the days passed, I found myself balancing my roles, mother by day, artist by night. The painting gradually took shape, slowly transforming into an abstract representation of the chaos that had consumed my life. Throughout the week, Richard remained distant. No calls, no texts, no attempts to reach out. He was too absorbed in his own world of business deals and numbers, too preoccupied to check in. Meanwhile, Lily, my ever-present little shadow, often returned to watch me paint. "You're really good, Mommy," she said on about the 4th day, a comment that filled me with warmth. "You should draw more." Her words were possibly the kindest feedback I would ever receive. Maybe I will, I thought, a little encouraged. By the night before I was set to reveal it, the painting was finished, an unfiltered outpouring of everything I had struggled to say. Sleep was elusive that night, my mind racing with worries. What if Isabel doesn't like it? What if Richard thinks I've wasted my time? The morning arrived clear and bright. I carefully wrapped the painting in plain brown paper, securing it with a bow made from one of Lily's hair ribbons. It felt like a small personal touch, something to make it special. Carrying the package with me, I attended the boss's wife's birthday party, hoping my art would be well received. As I moved through the crowd, my eyes lowered. I wished I could simply fade into the background. Richard was there, freshly returned from a business trip, his air of success practically radiating from him. He scanned the room, his gaze passing over the polished, elegantly dressed women before landing squarely on me. His face immediately soured, as if he had bitten into something unpleasant. I could feel his eyes on me, a silent judgment that only I could sense, while the noise of the party seemed to fade into the background. His attention then shifted to the package in my hands, his eyes narrowing in suspicion. That familiar pre-storm glare. "What's that?" he demanded, his voice low but sharp. "It's a gift. My painting," I answered, clutching the package tightly, wishing it could shield me from the confrontation I saw coming. "A painting? You've got to be kidding me," he scoffed, his voice rising, drawing a few curious glances our way. I shot him a look, silently begging him to stop, but he was beyond caring. "You seriously think it's appropriate to give her this amateur piece?" His words felt like daggers. The whispers around us began to swell, like the first drops of a rainstorm. "Richard, please, not here," I begged, my cheeks burning with embarrassment. "Did you lose your mind?" he shouted, his voice booming through the room. The atmosphere didn't just pause, it froze. His words, loud and cutting, made it clear to everyone that he thought I was making a fool of us. It was no longer just a moment of personal embarrassment. It was a public display of our deeper issues, laid bare for everyone to see. Suddenly, we were the center of attention. Eyes darted toward us, then away, and then back again, like spectators at a tennis match. I felt myself shrinking, wishing I could disappear into the floor. His face turned a shade of red I'd only seen on stoplights. "Great, just great, Clara," he exploded, throwing his hands up in frustration. "You never think, do you?" The heat flooding my face was anything but flattering. My hands shook, but I clung to the package, the painting my only anchor. I took a deep breath, trying to remember why I had thought this would be a good idea. "Now everyone's going to criticize us because of your foolish plan," he snapped, his words loud enough for anyone nearby to hear. I wanted to respond, maybe even snap back, but with everyone's eyes fixed on us, I was frozen in place, silently cursing the entire situation. Laughter erupted after Richard's outburst, each chuckle piercing through me like a knife. As the room spun around me, I caught the boss's eye. His expression was a mix of confusion and curiosity. His wife, Isabel, watched from across the room, her face a blend of concern and interest which gave me a flicker of hope. With a graceful wave of her hand, she silenced the room. "Let's see what Clara has for us," she said, her tone calm but firm. I moved as if on autopilot, my hands still shaking as I unwrapped the canvas, revealing the artwork I had poured my soul into. Isabel's eyebrows arched in surprise. "Oh my," she murmured, and the room fell silent, anticipating her verdict. "This is quite something, Clara," she continued. Richard, still simmering beside me, muttered, "Yeah, something all right?" Ignoring him, I searched Isabel's face for a sign. It's for you," I stammered. "Happy birthday." She studied the painting, her head tilted. "It's bold. I like bold, don't you, darling?" She nudged her husband, who was difficult to read, but nodded in agreement. "You don't see something like this every day?" Richard attempted to regain control. "Oh, come on, you're saying you like this mess?"
Ready?
But Isabel snapped back with a sharpness that stopped him in his tracks. "Richard, I'd watch it if I were you. Your wife is talent, and I won't have you embarrass her further. It's unbecoming." The room dropped into a tense silence, the kind so thick you could hear a pin drop blocks away. "Look at the colors, the life in it," Isabel continued, her voice softer now. Richard tried to interject. "Well, sure, if you like that sort of thing." But Isabel cut him off. "I do. It's decided. This goes right in the foyer." I blinked, stunned. "Are you sure?" The boss chimed in, hesitant. "It's not exactly—" Isabel shot him a look that made him falter. "Standard, right?" "It's unique." Her arm reached out to me, a gesture of solidarity. "Thank you, Clara. Here's a real gift. It's got soul." And just like that, the room buzzed with chatter once more. However, the atmosphere had changed. People were now nodding in agreement, some even regarding me with what appeared to be admiration. Isabel, cradling my painting as if it were a precious artifact, turned her gaze towards me once more. "No, Clara," she began, drawing the room's attention. "Have you ever considered exhibiting your art in a gallery?" Richard scoffed audibly. I heard it, but my attention was fixed on Isabel. "Nah, who'd be interested in my art?" I dismissed. "Don't worry, Clara, I would, and I know others who would too," Isabel replied confidently, her eyes sharp and persuasive. Richard attempted to brush it off with a laugh. "Come on, Isabel, she's just experimenting." Isabel raised an eyebrow at him. "Well, she experiments better than some established professionals I know." "What's it to you?" I felt a wave of anxiety, standing on the brink of something monumental. I don't know. I've never really thought about it." "What's there to think about? Just dive in. I'll support you," Isabel declared, her expression making it clear this wasn't a suggestion, but a directive. A nervous giggle escaped me, sounding slightly hysterical even to my own ears. "Sure, right," I agreed, and Isabel's face lit up with a smile. "Good. It's settled then." Following our exchange, whispers circulated around me like moths drawn to a flame. Individuals who had previously overlooked me were now eagerly discussing my art, clinging to me as if seeing me for the first time. It felt surreal, like I was navigating through someone else's life. Richard reappeared, his hand pressing almost painfully on my back. "You're not serious about this, are you?" His voice had a sharp edge, like a knife poised to slice. I turned to face him, feeling the weight of everyone's gaze and the pull of a new path before me. "Yes, I am," I said, my voice steady, infused with a strength I hadn't realized I had until now. He studied me, his eyes narrowing as though he were seeing me for the first time that evening. "But what about us?" he asked, his voice tinged with confusion. "What about us, Richard?" I repeated. We had been intertwined for longer than I was willing to admit. That seemed to shock him. He took a step back, his face clouded with uncertainty. "I thought we were fine," he muttered. I met his gaze, my tone colder than I intended, but it felt necessary. "You thought wrong." Richard ran a hand through his hair, his posture sagging with defeat. "So, what? We just end it?" I glanced down at the paint splatters on my nails, at the rings that had once meant something, but now felt insignificant. "We ended it a long time ago, Richard. We're just finally admitting it." He had no response, only silence. I watched him turn and walk away, his shoulders heavy with the weight of our shared history. Isabel's hand rested gently on my shoulder. "You okay, hun?" she asked, her voice warm with concern. I nodded, the tightness in my chest easing just a little. "I am. Thanks to you." She winked at me. "What are friends for, right?" Then she squeezed my shoulder, her words filling me with unexpected hope. And you, Clara? She said, her voice firm with belief. You're going to make this town take notice with your art. Just wait and see. A wave of excitement surged through me. It wasn't just about the end of something. It was the start of something new. The future ahead was now painted in the brightest colors I could imagine. Lily and I would be more than okay. We would be unapologetically, boldly, ourselves.